Hey everybody, welcome back to Shaper Speak. So one of the functions that you are inevitably going to be asked to do because you now have a Shaper origin is to do engravings. And I find this to be one of the most endearing qualities of the machine in that you can do a lot of the designing right then and there on the machine and just punch out an engraving really quick. So I'm going to start off this comparison, and I want to make it abundantly clear that this is a comparison, not a not a judgment saying one bit is better than the other. But I'm going to start this comparison off with the stock 60-degree engraving bit from Shaper. Now, I will eventually be getting to the second bit, which I do feel is an absolute must to have. But for right now, the stock 60-degree bit is great to get you up and running. And what you're seeing me do here is just go through the basic stock settings, setting the engraving bit, setting the basic engraving depth, and away I go. The 60-degree bit that comes with the shaper, it's good to just get you up and running. It will do a reasonable job as far as cut quality, as far as just being able to get engravings taken care of. No problems with that bit at all. But once I finish up with this engraving here, you will see that it may not necessarily be the jack of all trades as far as finish is concerned. So this is the 60-degree bit at that engraving depth, and I was not rushing this cut. I took about 2 minutes to do this cut, and you can see it's okay. It's fair. The next cut that I'm going to make, I'm going to set the depth now to 2 millimeters. I like using certain fonts and using the stock 60-degree bit with those fonts to create a deeper recess, a deeper channel, because I do a lot of inlay work. So obviously using MDF, I'm not going to pour epoxy on that. But in a hardwood situation, this is a good depth to be able to get some good coloring. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I'm a huge fan of the CA glue and baking soda method, and this is a really good depth to get enough of a channel and still keep some definition in the lettering. So that's what you see here, that 2 millimeter depth. The second bit that I'm going to be showing is a tapered bit, and this is a 0.5 millimeter tip with a 1 millimeter diameter at 1 millimeter cut depth. I know that's a lot to a lot to process, but I find that having a tapered bit on hand to do engraving is far better suited for what I think clients expect when they get their pieces back with an engraving. Um, I'm not going to change any of the settings. I have the stock engraving bit as the bit diameter, and I have the stock engraving depth for this first cut, even though I'm using an ultra fine tipped tapered bit. I can say this. When making my cuts, it's barely noticeable. There's no drag on the machine. It just literally feels like I am just moving the machine over the surface. There's no kind of feedback input, and that's because you just get an ultra fine cut. So there is the result of that fine tipped tapered bit comparative to the stock 60-degree bit. Obviously, the channel is a little bit wider for the 60-degree comparative to the 0.5 millimeter tipped bit. Now, same kind of test or same kind of process as the first test. I'm going to just set the depth to 2 millimeters. Go through the entire process again, and there's a little bit more of a noticeable drag on the machine, obviously because I'm taking a deeper cut, but this bit doesn't struggle. And after I get done with this cut, you'll see that there is obviously a bit of a wider a wider channel, and You know, I find that that 2 millimeter depth with this tapered bit is really, really good on hardwood species. Once you hit it with finish, it really does come alive comparative to just the engraving depth and that 0.5 millimeter bit. So there's all four of them side by side. So very quickly, while I round out this video, I just want to say thanks again for taking the time to watch. What I have on the screen are just my impressions as far as the overall outcomes when using these various bits. I would highly recommend putting that tapered bit into your arsenal.